Hey guys, Dr. H here with another episode of Physio on the Go. Today we are on the go out here on Big Bear Lake trying to catch us some trout. Kiddos, it's a nice day, a little windy, but yeah, hopefully we bring home some dinner. Anyway, yeah, we will continue our discussion shortly on how the lungs are working. All right, so we are out here fishing Big Bear Lake. Natanya, Judah's taking a little bit of a nap there, having a nice day. We did manage to come up with one decent trout so far. So, continuing our discussion on pulmonary function, how the lungs work. So I apologize for maybe a little bit of boat motor noise and a few things here and there, but we're out here on the lake, so it seemed like a good place to do another physio on the go. So, 3 key steps in your lungs getting gas in and out of your blood, which is their job, to get oxygen in and carbon dioxide out, right? So step number 1 is to ventilate. Yeah, you've got to get the air into your lungs. Okay, so we've had some discussion about that before when we were talking about why we need to have soap in our lungs, and so we had a little discussion on resistance of airways and so on. But so step number 1, we have to ventilate. What does that mean? Get air down into our lungs, okay? And particularly we got to get the air into the air sacs in our lungs, which are called alveoli. Yeah? So yeah, no fish right at the moment. So, well, there goes one. So hopefully we'll get a bite. Sure is a beautiful day though. Several fish. So hopefully we snag one of those guys. No. Yep, so we got to ventilate. We got to get air into our lungs, particularly into our air sacs, right? And we do that by pulling down on our diaphragm, which expands the lungs, okay? And when you expand the lungs, according to Boyle's law, the pressure goes down, yeah? So that's how we get air into our lungs. We lower the pressure inside the lungs compared to what's in the atmosphere, and the air comes into our lungs. Okay. How do we get air out of our lungs? Well, what we do with our diaphragm is we contract it. When it's relaxed, it's a dome shape. When it contracts, it comes down, yeah, and flattens and pulls down on the lungs. When we relax the diaphragm, it goes back to its dome shape, and the lungs are elastic, so they squeeze back together, right? So in order to get the air out, we just relax our diaphragm. Now we can squish some other muscles and help compress the volume of the lungs as well, but we don't have to. Okay, so that's ventilation, getting air into our air sacs and out of our air sacs. Okay, so in order for our lungs to work, we have to do that, right? So we have to ventilate the lung properly. There are conditions, especially 2 types of lung diseases where ventilation doesn't work well. We have obstructive lung disease, where we have an obstruction in the airway. Yeah, and that increases the resistance and makes it hard to get air through the tubes. And then we have situations where we restrict the ability of the lungs to expand. Those are called restrictive diseases. And we'll talk about that more some other time. Okay? Now, so that's ventilation. step number 2 in getting the lungs to work properly is diffusion. Okay, so what do we mean by diffusion? We get oxygen into our little air sacs, but it needs to get into the blood vessels. Okay, so we get the oxygen into the air sac, but then it has to diffuse through the wall of the air sac and through the wall of the blood vessel into the blood. And then the carbon dioxide needs to come from the blood. All right, got one on here. Yeah. There you go. You gotta keep reeling. Come on. All right, buddy. Keep reeling. Keep reeling. Here, I got the net. All right. Judah has fish on. Good one, buddy? Seems like it. Yeah, all right, buddy. Oh, a jumper. Keep reeling, don't let him get in the motor. Keep the pole up. No, 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 no. No, no, no. Oh, he got away. Well, he got off, little sucker. But anyway, so we have to have diffusion. We need to diffuse across the air sac and across the blood vessel wall, okay, and vice versa, right? So we have ventilation, we have diffusion, and finally the last thing we have to have is perfusion. What is perfusion? Well, it doesn't do any good to have gas going through the wall of the air sac, through the wall of the blood vessel, and vice versa if there's no blood coming through. So the blood has to be going through the lungs. Yes, this is called perfusion. Okay, so we have ventilation. Secondly, we have diffusion. And thirdly, we have perfusion. So those are the 3 key steps for having your lungs work very well. Ventilation, diffusion, and perfusion. All right, we've got another one on. See if we can get this one into the boat this time. There he is. Looks like a decent one.
Over here.
Oh, a fat one. Oh no. Okay. Oh, that should have let it much. Oh. Well, you can't win them all. You can have problems with any of those. We mentioned some problems with ventilation. You can have constricted airways. You can have air sacs that don't expand. The compliance is poor. So ventilation could be low. You could ventilate, but if you have a problem like a thickened barrier with fluid or scar tissue or something, then diffusion doesn't work very well, right? So we can have problems with diffusion as well. And then finally, you can ventilate the lungs and diffusion could work well, but if you have, let's say, a pulmonary embolism that's blocking blood flow through part of one of the lungs, well, it doesn't really matter if you're having gas exchange. It's not being picked up by the blood and carried away, right? So in order for the lungs to work properly, you got to have ventilation, you got to have diffusion, and you got to have perfusion, okay? And the lung is designed perfectly for all these things to work well. For example, for ventilation, we have very compliant air sacs. They expand very easily normally. And we have very low resistance in our airways. Either they're big or there are so many of the small ones that the resistance is low. So we're designed very well for ventilation. Okay, we're designed incredibly well for diffusion because we have what we call simple squamous epithelial tissue between the air sacs and the blood. Okay, and it's very, very, very thin. right? And so that really facilitates diffusion. All right. We also have perfusion set up very well. So all of the blood that pumps through our body then goes through what we call the pulmonary circulation. It goes through the lungs, and it goes through so many capillaries that they basically form a sheet of blood around each of the air sacs, right? So it's very well set up for perfusion. So your lungs are ideally situated to work almost perfectly. Nothing works perfectly, but we have a great setup for ventilation, we have a great setup for diffusion, and we have a great setup for perfusion. Alright, so we got another one on. Fish are biting finally. Okay. Gotta be close. There he is. Looks like a good one, yeah. Oh yeah. Alright, jumper. He's a big one. Okay. Oh, a nice big one. Yeah, that's a good one. All right.
Look at that sucker.
There you go. One big bear trout. Hope that was helpful. Give you one last look around the lake here as we're heading back toward the dock. Maybe go home and go for a bike ride. Hopefully we'll get another fish on the way. I see a few cruising by. All right, take care and God bless.